Hello everyone, welcome to the new episode of Professionals Unplugged. I am your host Utkarsh Shukla and let me introduce you to my guest Amy. Amy, thank you so much for joining in.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So let's start with our very basic question. Can you please introduce our audience about yourself, like who you are, what work you do, anything you want to talk about yourself?
Sure, yeah, I would love to. Well, I'm Amy Blakeslee, and I live in Redondo Beach, California, which is just outside of Los Angeles. And I have two careers kind of going right now. So I have had a long career in the tech world, starting out as an engineer, moving into architecture and then leadership. And so I'm still doing consulting work in the technology space. And right now, I'm specifically doing some data strategy work at the leadership level for an international gaming company. And so that's pretty fun and exciting to be able to do that work. Data and analytics is pretty complex, and I think it touches all of us in different ways in our lives. And then on the other hand, I follow my other passion, which is to help people. And I do conscious leadership coaching, where I help people really connect to their authentic self, discover their purpose, and bring that into work and create a job, situation, or a life that they truly love, because we all have a purpose. We're here to be living. And when we're not connected to it, our life doesn't feel like it's going right, because it's not. We're not doing what we're really meant to be doing here. And then lastly, I'm also an author. I wrote a book about my life journey, and that led from dealing with anxiety into my spiritual awakening. And that book is called Awakening Through Anxiety, A Journey to Finding One's True Self. And I'm also a mom, which is my biggest accomplishment in my whole
Yeah,
life, if you ask me. So,
that's great. I think so. You are right now doing three parts, including your motherhood. First
right.
one is being an engineer or at the architecture level. At now time, you are designing systems for different clients or say different companies for which you are working. Second
Mhm.
one, or oh no, the third one is your own company that you have founded, like where you help people found the path in their life. Okay, so let's talk about this one. Firstly, like how you end up being here. Like there must be some backstory for the same, like why you started this company. So can you just enlighten us on the same?
Yeah, I think, while I've always been very blessed in my tech career, I always felt there was something missing. And then as I was dealing with my anxiety ties into the story, because my anxiety was really something that was telling me I was out of alignment with my authentic self and what I was meant to do. So I had started on the path to discover why am I having this anxiety? And it was largely caused by unresolved trauma from my childhood. Um, and sometimes we don't want to look at stuff like that, because we think that, we're our thoughts and we're our feelings. That's who we are, when it's absolutely not who we are. It's just I think our body and mind's way of telling us that we're not in alignment with, um, I think what I would call our divine self, like who we truly are. So I went off on that path, and that's when I had my spiritual awakening that, not just this mind and this body, but the bigger part of me is the spiritual part of me. And through that process, I came across one of my coaches who led me on the path, like, we're all here for a purpose, right? And so as I got taken on that path, I knew that my life purpose was to bring that to the world, to help other people to discover who they truly are and why they're here. And it's interesting because that ties back to who I was as a very small child. Because as a very small child, I wanted everybody to feel good, when my friends were upset, I would try, everything I could do to comfort them and let them see it differently. Like, no, this isn't, you're not like this, it's, there's goodness in everything. And, then I wanted to be a teacher, and then I wanted to be a psychiatrist, and then I ended up in tech. So my life path kind of, I think part of our purpose is discovering our purpose. So, knowing really coming back to that knowing of who we are. So.
What is that one thing that you think is important when you try to know yourself, or like you have mentioned, you are helping people. So, what is that one common problem that you think exist among all of us, and that can be simplified.
I think it really comes down to self-love. There's a lack of self-love because we're not raised to love ourselves. We're raised on a lot of limiting beliefs that come through us either through society, through our parents, absolutely through the media, and just from other people's lived experiences. And we have more negative messages coming at us than we do positive messages. And it takes away from us really understanding and knowing who we truly are. So when I work with people, we very first start with a program called Love Yourself, which examines who you are in relationship to key relationships in your life, like your mother relationship, father relationship, and all of that. And that has a profound effect of changing so many aspects of your life, not your personal life, but your professional life as well.
Yep, I think I totally agree with you on the same. And when it's come to the anxiety nowadays, I think by the rise of the social media and people seeing everyone around you, so there is a kind of a higher expectation from oneself, and that might cause you not to love yourself. Instead, it creates an opposite behavior inside you, right? Where you try to blame yourself or blame other people around you. So, do you think social media has affected the rise in the anxiety in our society nowadays?
Absolutely. It's a really great medium. We have to, if we look at a lot of media today, I mean, we look at our TVs, excuse me, we look at TVs, newscasts, everything that's pushed at us. And so social media is a really great way to target messages specifically to people and kind of specifically to what you're already anxious about. You're going to start, right? Algorithms are going to send you more and more information like that, and it's just going to make it spiral and grow. So I do. And then, a lot of what is on social media isn't even real, right? And you start comparing yourself to stories that are not even accurate or things that are happening. And that's one thing I always say is that everything that so much of what we believe about ourselves are just stories, and we can rewrite those stories and find success in our lives.
So, any story you like to share from your experience till now with us, from your personal
Uh,
or professional life that you want to talk on?
let's see, any story. I think that I think I'd like to share that as I think talking about as I changed my stories and how I started showing up differently, I think is really important. And I do share a story about my fear of public speaking in my book. And I think that's something that a lot of people have. I think they say that more people are afraid to speak publicly than they are to die or something like that. And I believe that, right? And there's so many reasons I think that comes to be. And a lot of it comes down to just our need to be part of the group and survival fears that are within all of us. But as I was able to peel those stories of limitation away from myself, I was able to show up and start speaking in groups. And, there was a time where I would not have even been able to do this conversation with you because my anxiety would have been so great. And when you learn the superpowers that we have to create our experiences, and I did that specifically to help create outcomes with public speaking, like using affirmations beforehand. I'm a confident public speaker and everything, and then I would give talks or have to speak in large groups with my job, and afterwards just having so many people come up to me and say, wow, you were just so calm. I really felt that. And so it's really exciting when you get to start to playing with your superpowers and seeing how you can change your life in different ways. And I use them in all aspects of my life, with my personal life and professional life.
Awesome. So, what was that one thing that kept you motivating or helped you from recovering from anxiety? So, what is that one thing that you would like to share with uh, anyone who is suffering from anxiety or have anxiety somehow in their lives? Any one advice you like to give them?
I think there were two things for me. I think there was always the light that I had within inside of myself that was saying there was more than this, that this wasn't who I was supposed to be. And learning to trust that light is really important. It's, sometimes I think and it comes from our body, right? Those messages come from our body. And sometimes we don't want to hear what they're saying, maybe, so we ignore them, but, or our mind is trying to override it. So I would say that listen to your body, really embrace that light that's within yourself. And the other aspect of it is that I learned that anxiety was my friend. So when I first was having the anxiety, I felt like there was something defective about me, and I did everything I could to hide it from people. And the more you try to hide it, the more it tries, the harder it gets to hide. So the resistance creates more of it. But I learned that anxiety is it's your friend. It's showing you that you're believing things about yourself or projecting into the future something that you think could happen that's likely not going to happen. But you're believing stories about yourself that if you really examine them, they're not true. So whenever I start to feel anxiety now, because obviously I still do, new experiences come up all the time. I look at it as, okay, where this is telling me I'm out of alignment with love for myself, and what do I need to do to bring it back in? So see it as a friend, embrace it.
Right. And so the same thing you have mentioned in your book, right? So your story from recovering from anxiety. So what is that book all about? If you can tell us something about that as
Yeah, the book is, I would call it a memoir, spiritual self-help book. So I do share my childhood story. I had a pretty traumatic childhood compared to, I think, many people do. So I shared that, and, as the cause of my anxiety. And I also, talked about my awakening in it. And I also share exercises that helped me to, transcend the anxiety and connect to who I am, connect to that larger self and the superpowers that we have. So that helped. When you can start to give yourself, see your power, you can start to feel like you have control of your life again, right? So I wanted to share all of that. And the other reason I shared my life story in it is that we all go through a lot of trauma and things that I think a lot of people can also feel, as victims of it. You can feel embarrassed by it or ashamed or like it's something you did wrong. And I wanted to share that because the stuff that I had, because you don't do anything wrong. They're just things that happen to you. And I think the more that we can talk about those things and bring light to them, that we can stop them from happening. Like, right. And getting people, when people have the power to talk about it, I think other people would be less inclined to do these things, to do things to other people or whatever. So, yeah, I think that's.
and I think that's pretty much clear the answer. Like you need to talk about the things when you want the things to be clear from everyone's end so that it can be stopped.
Yeah. Yes.
So let's jump to the tech world now. I think
Okay.
we have done a lot of 15 minutes to anxiety. Let's talk about tech world right now. So you have worked
Okay.
with different firms, correct? And you started from the tech industry now, creating the architecture. So what is that one thing you found out that keeps the attrition rate low at some companies while it is high at other companies? So what is that one culture you think is required nowadays from the tech
To
perspective or from, you can say, company perspective?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of attrition in tech, right? The major layoffs across the board. And yeah, so I think that for any company to stop the attrition, they need to create safe environments. And unfortunately, we don't see that in most of the corporate world, right? So, and it really depends on the leadership of the company setting the tone. So, being able to, I think, bringing up leaders who are leaders. And sometimes people end up in leadership roles in the corporate world, I think in anywhere, right, who are good at, getting the job, but not necessarily as executing as a leader, right? So, because what it takes to get a job isn't what it takes to do the job. So I think bringing up leaders who are conscious, who know who they are, who are connected to their their divine self. I do think we need to bring love into the corporate
Right.
world. And when you see companies, I've been in some companies where there is love coming from leadership. And I know in the corporate world, people don't want to use the word love because they associate it with, oh, emotions between two people. But I'm talking about the environments where you can share, you can collaborate, there's empathy and kindness, and creativity is allowed, and there's just not that fear of I don't know, there's just a lot of fear. About do it my way or I'm going to fire you, and the
Mm.
hierarchies, the really strict hierarchies and all of that. So I think companies who can bring in love, and I think companies who can encourage their employees to discover their purpose and find ways to bring their purpose into their jobs could really change when the exit of people from companies. And I think it's especially true for women. There's something like a very large percentage of women leave the tech world by the time they're 35, right? And there's a lot of reasons. We could have a whole podcast on that probably. But I think, like for me, discovering my purpose, it's not really, you wouldn't naturally say, oh, well, a tech leadership job, that's perfect for it. But I can bring my purpose into my tech leadership job and make it even, more satisfying for me. So, and it's my way of bringing, my love to the people I work with.
And any advice you like to give to the young people who are trying to start their career in the tech industry, or you can say college students who are trying to learn coding and get into the tech world?
Right. I honestly am not certain where like the trends are for hiring in the tech world, so I can't really talk to that. But I think what made me really, I think for my career, what really helped is that I looked at not doing just the status quo that everyone was doing, but what are the emerging technologies that are going to come out? Very early in my career, I saw that data warehousing, and it was, BI, back then, it was really something that was just starting up. And a lot of people didn't want to do it. Oh, that's just the reporting or data side, right? But if you can see that vision or find a mentor who can help you see the visions and jump in those areas, and ultimately your career is up to you to take on the journey. You can't look at even your managers and your companies or whatever, because they don't really, ultimately they don't care where your career goes in the same way you do. So I really think that, and when you're in your job and working, find every way you can to be valuable, right? Don't say, no, that's not my job. Jump in and, help in other ways. And that can open doors to other opportunities within that organization. So,
I think that's pretty much simplifies. You need to take the ownership of yourself. Right?
yes. Yeah.
So what is your dream right now at this point?
Yeah, my dream. Oh, I would love to. My dream is to travel, to be in a spot where I can. And in today's world with the remote work and everything, then my daughters are, in college, one's coming to college age, the other one is. So I'm going to have some freedom in my life. So to be able to travel and do my coaching, I would love to speak on a larger scale and influence more people to really connect to themselves and discover their purpose and their superpowers, and especially to help empower women to become leaders in not just the corporate world, but I think a lot of people who want to bring their purpose to life are going to be maybe doing businesses outside of working for a corporation. They may support corporations, but to truly do a heart-based business, I think it's hard to bring that to life in the current landscape of the corporate world. So, yeah, just connecting and being out there as much as I can, and still, staying in tech a bit too.
Correct. So last question I will like to ask you is how you try to maintain the balance between both the things, because tech world is totally different and connecting with people, trying to share your knowledge with them and helping them is a completely different thing, right? So both of them are north and south. So how you try to maintain the balance between them. I think I also wanted to ask this question to you because I am also in the same boat. So
Yeah, so I bring my superpowers into the tech world. So I do a lot of the practices that I talk about in my book. I do intention setting when there's goals within work that I want to accomplish. So I have led teams on projects where we made some accomplishments that were considered impossible, but we did them. I was using some of these techniques, and they didn't know it probably, but I was teaching them things like that. And I think also it's kind of also a learning ground for me because everything that happens in our life is a reflection of what's within ourselves. So when I'm in the corporate world and I'm seeing something adverse come up, again, I look to the reflections coming from within me. Where is it coming from? And I shift that. Like if it's something adverse, it's non-loving. I find the root of that and I shift that, and then it changes what shows up for me. So and then I can bring that knowledge working with clients because my clients do come from the corporate world and they're looking for what so much of, they're looking for fulfillment and abundance, right? So it's another way to create abundance in your life is connecting to your superpowers and your purpose.
that's
I
great.
hope that helped. I hope that
Yeah,
answered the
that
question.
that answers the question. So you don't only
Yeah.
focus on one thing, but you try to find the solution for the both things at once and try
Yeah.
to use them at different. I mean, try to use one thing at both the places.
Yeah, you can integrate all aspects of yourself into your life, regardless of what's currently happening. So
Pretty much answered the question. So thank you so much, Amy. It was a great experience speaking with you. I hope you also had a great experience. Thank you so much for
yeah,
joining, sharing your insights.
thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.